So this is a continuation of the first part of the video and of sexual sins part 2, and we were talking about Amnon and Jonadab, and we're at 2 Samuel 13 verse 5. And Jonadab said unto him, lay thee down on the bed. Oh, so we're going to go back to 4, because that's where the last one cut off. 4. And he said unto him, why art thou, being the king's son, lead from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. So he said, so Jonadab asks Amnon, why are you leaning on the bed? Like, you're the king's son? Like, what's wrong with you? And Amnon says to Jonadab, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Which I thought was, if you notice, like, he says my brother's sister instead of my sister, and I feel like he was like putting separation between him and his sister to pretty much do what he wanted to do. And I feel like this is kind of a pattern, especially in like families, or like, I mean, in my case, a family member tried to convince me that he was my, I didn't have a brother and I didn't have any cousins. So he was like, this is your cousin and this is your brother, to try to get me to conform to what he wanted to do. And I was like, no, you're my dad, so I'm not gonna lie, or pretend like what you're doing is good, because it's not. So I think that's one of those things that you just gotta take it how it is. Like, people lying, I mean. Anyway, and Jonadab said unto him, lay thee down on the bed and make thyself sick. When thy father come to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come and give me meat and dressed meat in my sight, that I may see it and eat it at her hand. So Jonadab tells Amnon to lay down on the bed and make yourself sick, and tell your dad that you're sick, and tell him to send your sister Tamar to give him meat, and to make the meat in his sight, so that he'll eat it and at her hand. So she's like serving him essentially. And I realized in between the days of trying to make this video but not being able to for whatever circumstances, that a lot of times I notice that when people are manipulated, or they get into like non-consensual things that happen, it seems like they have a willingness to serve. Like, she went out of her way to serve her brother. I went out of my way to serve people too, and I got abused. And a lot of times people take advantage of that, like your willingness to serve, and they make their corruption, your willingness to serve, as a way to take advantage of what your service is to be to God, instead of being like, serve God. They like want to use their selfishness, or like their corruption, in this case perversion, to take advantage. And that's bad. So I just realized that when I was like in my quiet time with the Jesus, and I just felt like, dang, like, if you think about it, think about, like Cinderella. Cinderella had a stepmom that was abusing her, emotionally, physically, spiritually too, because if you once you get abused, it like it kind of makes you sad, or like it brings your self-esteem down. And Cinderella had a willingness to serve. she she was serving her stepmom and her self sisters, and she she got taken advantage of for that. And I feel like that's also like a markman, like a thing that people even do now. Like people that there's guys and there's girls that have willingness to serve, and instead of like serving God, they serve people, and then they get taken advantage of, or just different situations. Anyway, 6. So Amnon lay down and made himself sick, and when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. So Amnon does what Jonadab says. He makes himself sick. When the king comes, Amnon says to the king, I pray you let my sister Tamar come and make me a couple cakes in my sight, that I may eat it at her hand. And then 7. Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to thy brother Amnon's house and dress him meat. So David sends his daughter, which, I really feel like sometimes people just don't have discernment, and they're not thinking that, people can do stuff like this. So they just send people because they like, there's nothing gonna happen. It's gonna be all good. And then stuff happens. And, it's really unfortunate, but, when stuff like this does happen, it affects not only the person that is done to, but it affects the people around them too. And it changes their perspective and their mindset. Because, after this happened, David was like, maybe I shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Because people do what they want to do, and they don't care. 8. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down, and she took flour and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and did bake the cakes. So, also the fact that he lives at a different house, and then you sent your kid to go to your brother's house to feed him, and then the willingness for even her to go to another person's house to make him food. That's like a level of service that, I feel like most people wouldn't even want to do or like consider to do. Anyway, so yeah, Tamar went to her brother's house, where he was laying down. She took flour, kneaded it, she made cakes in his sight, and then baked the cakes. And she took a pan, poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Have out all men from me, and they went out every man from him. And she took the pan, poured it before him, and then he refuses to eat, even though he asked her to come here and be like, give me food. Red flag. Anyway, and then he says, have all the men come out for me, and then every man went out. So he's isolating her and to do what he wants to do. And I'm not even kidding, guys. Like, this is so similar to my story. Like, and reading this made me realize that this is like this is like a pattern of like all abusers. They isolate you. They try to get you alone. They send you for a task that don't make sense. Like, the first time I got abused, like, I was isolated from my sibling and put in a room, and I felt like a sense of they just wanted me to get alone and be alone, and like put me in a bedroom for literally no reason, because I was running around and I was just having fun. And then it was like every time I even blinked, it was like, shut up. And I was like, I didn't do anything. And then they were like, you know what, come in here. And then stuff like this happens because you don't expect it, but it'd be like that. They really do isolate people like this. And it's like, even look at any true crime case. Look at what's that Special Victims Unit. I don't watch that one because it's always the same thing. But look at any case that is like this in nature. It's the same exact thing, and it's in the Bible, y'all. Which is great that you see it, because then you can analyze it, and then you can like take it into account to your own life, so this doesn't happen to you or around you. And then yeah. Anyway, 10. And Abraham said unto Tamar, bring the meats into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber of Abraham her brother. So he said to Tamar, bring the meats into my bedroom, that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Abraham her brother. And I mean, you obviously don't expect people to do stuff like this, but like, honestly, a lot of crimes are committed by family members, y'all. Like, I had a lot of family members that abused me, and this is the type of stuff they do. You be thinking like regular stuff, and then they try to take advantage, and then they get you alone, and they abuse you, and then they stalk you, or they just do stuff like this, because they're only thinking about themselves and their own gratification. And it's not right. 11. And when Abraham, and when had she brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her, and said unto her, come lie with me, my sister. So she brought the food to him, and he took hold of her and said to her, come lie with me. So he literally just was like, come lay with me. So again, real life, you say leave me alone, and they just grab you. 12. And she answered him, nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. So again, very similar to my story. I said, no, I don't like that. Leave me alone. I fought. I said, that's not supposed to be done. You're my family member, to multiple people, and they don't care. And she said to him, and then the fact that she says no thing is supposed to be done in Israel, to do that is folly. The fact that she's saying, that means this isn't done here. We don't do this here. If you do this, you're doing something wrong. It's folly. It's foolish. 13. And whither shall I cause my shell to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as far as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. So she's basically saying to him, if you do this, you'll be one of the fools in Israel. And then she's saying, speak to the king, their father. So you don't do this to me, basically. And again, you say stuff, like, this isn't right, this isn't okay, and this is not the first time. Like, people think stuff is new. This stuff is in the Bible. This stuff is not new. People have been doing these things for centuries. How long ago was the Bible written? And this stuff is in here. And if you just read, you would see how much like literally there's nothing new. It's just different people and different scenarios added with technology. 14. Howbeit he said, would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than he forced her and lay with her. So he didn't listen to her, but because he was stronger than her, he forced her and laid with her. Again, I was little. I was like 8, bro. Grown man. So, same thing. Look at every episode of every show. Identical. So serious. Anyway, 15. And Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred where had he loved her was greater than the love within he had loved her, with wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, rise, be gone. So he rapes her and then hates her with the and then his hate for her outgrew the hatred, the love he had for her. And this is identical to me. I got assaulted. My parents both hated me, but then eventually, like, yeah, they just hated me. My female parent considered it, well, anyway, I knew she knew. That's all I'm gonna say. And the male parent just did not like me. And it's like they grow like repulsion to you based off of what they do to you, which makes no sense. Anyway, again, and this is how you get these people that attack people and then they try to kill them because they hate them instead of hating what they do. So it's like they put their perversion on the person and then they hate them. And then I was watching a sermon and he was talking about how he hated her because instead of hating his sin, he hated the person instead of hating the sin that he committed. And I was like, I didn't think about that, but that makes a lot of sense. 16. And she said unto him, there is no cause. This evil is sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. So, for me, when I read this, I was like, she's saying that sending her away is greater than what he did. And he wouldn't listen to her. And I was like, so you're telling me that she got assaulted, and then she was saying that sending her, the rejection of the assault after he did it was worse than the physical assault. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but like that's a real thing. And there's some people, like, they do become loving towards the people that assault them. And I think it really is from not really understanding. It's like they mix up, and I mixed up, like what consensual sex versus the sexual sin is, and they start to just not understand what it's for, and understand that like it just corrupts sex for them, and it corrupts them against other people because their first experience is an assault. And it's just sad because I feel like people do this, and I feel like the consequences of that emotionally is actually harder sometimes than the physical part, because you have to emotionally think about, like, you remember it, you remember your body, you remember them, you remember smells, you remember atmosphere, and you have to think about all that stuff. And yeah, just hard. Anyway, 17. And then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, now put this woman out for me, and bolt the door after her. So then he says to his servant that was that ministered unto him, he said, "Put out this woman." And for me, I was like, why he call her a woman? He didn't call her a woman this whole time. He just called her his sister or something else. But I was like, he gonna call her a woman now? And that actually kind of happened to me too. They started seeing me as like a woman, even though I didn't ask for none of this. And I was like, how you gonna assault me and then call me something that I didn't even put myself in? You see what I'm saying? Don't make sense. Anyway, and then he bolted the door after her. So he assaulted her, had a servant kicked her out, and then locked the door. Rude. It's not even rude, but it is rude. It's still bad anyway. But that's jacked up too. Like, it's like he's repulsed, to me at least. Anyway, and she had a garment of divers colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then her servant, then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. So she wore divers covers, and when I looked up what that meant, apparently at that time they wore robes and colors to say that they were a virgin or not. So she gets assaulted and has to put on the same colors that marked her as a virgin and stand and be around her sisters that were also wearing those colors, but they were virgins. And she might have felt like she wasn't, because she was assaulted, but I don't know. I think different people have different thoughts about that. I personally think that if you have assault, that's not consent, so that doesn't really like make you not a virgin anymore. So it's not consensual, but that's my opinion. So yeah, she put the garments on that marked her as a virgin, and then they bolted the door after, and then the servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. And then it says 19. Tamar put ashes on her head and the divers covers that was on her, and laid her hand on her head and went out crying. So she put ashes on her head, which if you guys, it means like when you put ashes on your head, it means that you're mourning or you're in repentance, and she's having a tough time. She's not doing good, y'all. And she put herself in mourning after she got locked out, or bolted out the door. And she rent the diver's covers. So the clothing that she was wearing that says that she was a virgin, she ripped it. And then she laid her hand on her head. So I don't know if it was like this or if it was like this, but and then it says she went on crying. So she is distressed. Personally, I didn't cry. I just was kind of shocked, but I definitely understand why she cried. Because you don't really understand, honestly, like what emotionally is happening, especially when you're young. You don't know, you don't get it. You might not get it until you're much younger. I mean, you're older. So, yeah. I mean, she knows because she understood that like that wasn't allowed in Israel, but it was forced on her. So 20. And Absalom her brother said unto her, Hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? But hold now thy peace, my sister, he is thy brother, regarding on this thing. So Tamar remained docile in her brother Absalom's house. So Absalom sees her, says, Has Amnon thy brother been with you? And he's saying, Hold thy peace, my sister, he's thy brother. Regard this thing. So disregard not. So disregard that. And then she remained in her brother Absalom's house. Give me a second. So desolate means gloominess, or laid waste, comfortless, afflicted. Dang, that's sad. She's she's they're saying she's comfortless in her brother Absalom's house. I mean, personally, I was distraught, but I also didn't understand what it was or what it meant. But I also have DID, so you have to realize that like my mind broke off so I could remember and I didn't remember at the same time. Um, yeah. So like my more protective personalities were well all the what's the word? It's like the let's just call them the alternate personalities. That's not like my true identity. The protective ones knew, and they would protect me, and then the ones that were more innocent that didn't remember were, they weren't fine, but they were in coping mode, if that makes sense. I'm gonna talk about this part later, but it's okay. Um, so 21. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very warped, which means very angry or much exasperated. So again, he was he was he was mad and he was upset. And then it says 22, and Absalom spake unto his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon because his forced his sister Tamar. So Absalom is mad at Amnon because he raped her sister. I didn't have that problem. I mean, other people like outside of my family knew, but like, for the most part, because appearances on the outside were very curated by my family, specifically my parents, people didn't believe me. So, yeah, which is also another thing, especially when people are like, have narcissistic spirits where like just stuff like that. They do stuff like that to like make your circle small. Again, isolation. Anyway, and it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baalah, which were beside Ephron, and Absalom invited all the king's sons. 22. And Absalom came to the king and said, Behold now thy servant, thy sheep shearers, let the king, I beseech thee, and their servants go with thy servant. And the king said, Absalom, nay, my son, let us not all go now go, let us be chargeable unto thee. And he pressed him, howbeit he would not go, but bless him. So Absalom wants to have a meeting of everybody, and David's like, yeah, I'm not gonna go to that, but God bless you. 26. And he said, Absalom, if not, I pray thee, let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said unto him, Why should he go with thee? Absalom says, I pray that he wants his brother to go. And the king said, Why would you do that? But Absalom pressed him that he would let Amnon know the king's son with him. So Absalom's like, I want him to come, and I want the king's sons to go with us. And Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, Make ye know that Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say unto you, smite Amnon, then kill him. Fear not, have not I commanded you? Be courageous and be vigilant, which means power or mindful. So Absalom's saying, we're gonna get him drunk with wine, and when I say kill him, then we kill him. And then he said, Fear not, not what I command you. So basically, Absalom's like, I'm gonna kill my brother, and you're gonna help me, and don't fear it. 29. And the servants of Absalom did unto Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man got him up unto his mule and fled. 30. And it came to pass while they were in the way that tidings came to David, saying, Absalom hath slain all the king's son, and there is not one of them left. So, they got Amnon drunk, and the king's sons arose, and then they got on their mule. He got him up upon his mule and fled. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man got him up until his mule and fled. And then it came to pass. So Absalom king slayed all the king's son, and there was not on any of them left. None of them left. 31. And the king arose and tore his garments and lay on the earth, and all the servants stood by them with their clothes rent. And Jonadab, the son of Shechem's David brother, answered and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's sons, and Amnon only is dead, for by the appointment of Absalom this hath been determined for the day that I forced his sister Tamar. My thing was, I was like, this guy's involved, like, so yeah, the king is distressed. He's tearing his garments, and his servants are tearing their garments too because they're distressed, which honestly, rightfully so. But like, can you imagine like somebody being so upset that they're just like, and they're like, I'm sad, and then like your servants also do the same thing because you're sad? It's not funny, but it's kind of funny, like the image of it. uh, so they're saying, let not all my lords suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's sons, for only Amnon is dead for because of assaulting his sister. And then 33. Now therefore let not my lord the king take the thing to his heart to think that all the king's sons are done, for Amnon only is dead. Oh, okay. So he's saying, let the king take the thing to his heart to think that all the kings. So only Amnon's dead. But Absalom fled, and the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there came much people by the way of the hillside behind him. Dang, so Absalom left. He killed his brother and then left. And then the king thought all of them were dead. And I thought all of them were dead too, but it's just Amnon, sorry. And Jonadab said unto the king, Behold, the king's sons come as thy servant said. So it is. And it came to pass, as soon as they heard an ending of speaking, that behold, the king's son came and lifted up their voice and wept, and the king also and all his servants wept very sore. So when Absalom fled, people came up the hill, and then the other sons of the king came back, and they came back crying. And yeah. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of the Geshur, and David mourned for his son every day. So he kills his brother, and then he also flees, and then his dad is mourning for his son. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. So Absalom kills his brother, flees, went to Geshur, and was there for 3 years. And then it says, the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom, but he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. So King David this specifies that he was actually sad that Absalom fled, and that he longed for him, but he was comforted knowing that Amnon was dead. So that's rough when people are honestly kind of happy that a guy died. I mean, I know, like, the thing is, like, I understand. This is like if you think about it, like when people assault other people, man or a woman, to a man, woman, or whoever, child or not child, a lot of people feel like they only feel safety when the people are dead. And it's like, even if the person's dead, you know, or if they're not dead, you still have to take your moment to heal. And you still have to realize that, like, yeah, they did something very terrible, but their death is not going to give you peace. And you also you can't take matters into your own hand to kill people just because they do awful things. And I often think about, when I was younger, I was very, I was angry, but because I had DID, I didn't know why I was angry. I just know I was mad. And then there was other personalities that knew why I was mad, but they wouldn't tell me what happened. So it's like, I think if I knew, I probably would have been a vengeful little person more than I already was. I'm more angry than I already was because emotionally I was still being abused, not only sexually abused. But, yeah, vengeance isn't the way to go. Because you gotta realize, like, when you have a relationship with Christ, there's no way that whether it's on this earth or it's in heaven, when you go to God, that God is gonna allow for people to just have these things happen to them. So whether if a person, man or woman, is doing whatever they're doing, you know, there's always gonna be some type of justice for you or for whoever that has had these type of things happen. I no longer really like I don't I don't really. I think there was a time where I definitely was livid, and I could have definitely been like Absalom, and just would have and been like a sword, like been like shah shah shah. But there's really no reason to. Like, God is going to use you for something greater, and the fact that I at that time didn't know everything that had happened to me, but God was literally using me to warn my family about uh, them going to hell, or warning me to warn them about trials or tribulations they would have, and they just didn't want to change or didn't want to take the warning advice from God. you know there's a consequence from that, and you're not control of people's consequences. You don't have to be. What sense would it make for me or you to just be like, to just have a vendetta against somebody for the rest of your life? You're gonna waste your life. You're gonna waste your time. You're gonna waste the opportunity that God's gonna give you to do good in your life. So why stress? Why worry? Why think about what's gonna happen to these people? Because this Amonon spirit and the Epsilon spirit, because he ruined his life too. Because he tried to get revenge, he couldn't go back home. Um, and if you think about Joseph killed somebody too, because he wanted to get what he wanted to get, and he went about it the wrong way. You can't, there's gonna be consequences, and you don't want the consequences for revenge or for anger or for revenge or justice. You see what I'm saying? Because God is gonna get the last laugh, and He may even use you to get the last laugh. Is last laugh the right word? I don't know. But like He may use you to just fix this. You see what I'm saying? So if you guys have a similar story, whether it's Absalom or it's Abraham or Tamar, just understand that there's always a way to ask for forgiveness. There's always a way to deal with your pain. There's always a way to just seek the next right thing. Whether you did wrong, whether you didn't do wrong, whether you were the victim, Tamar, in this, and you were just trying to be a servant and trying to be kind and sweet and loving and gentle. She has to do her pain too, y'all. You know, Abraham, I mean, he did, but he had to deal with his pain too, because you have to have some type of pain to be dealing that with to other people, and a sense of lack of morality. So he has some things going on, as well as people in the real and in this world have stuff going on. Because I'm not gonna say it's the real world, because that's the real world too. But forgiveness, asking for forgiveness, would have saved him, and owning his mistakes would have saved him. And Absalom, Jesus would have handled that. So again, he has to ask for forgiveness too now. And you want to live a life that's blameless and not killing people or hurting people. So have a good day, y'all. Oh, and yeah, I hope you're doing good.